Have you ever felt like you're always a step behind in a world where others seem to command the room without effort? Maybe you've been in a conversation where someone twisted your words with a smile or made you doubt yourself without ever raising their voice. It isn't luck. It isn't a charm. It's a strategy. Most people are quick to react. They speak too soon, reveal too much, and lose their ground before they even realize the game has started. But you don't have to be like most people. There is a quieter kind of strength, built on discipline, clarity, and restraint. A strength rooted not in manipulation, but in mastery of self. What if you could sense intentions before words were spoken? What if you could shift dynamics without ever raising your voice? These aren't tricks. They are principles, timeless, unshakable, and grounded in Stoic wisdom. If you're ready to stop being moved by the world and start moving through it with purpose, then stay with me. These 6 lessons will change how you see power and how you carry it. 1. Master emotional stillness. Have you ever seen someone unravel during a conversation? Their tone changes, their voice rises, their words stumble into chaos. That isn't strength. That's someone handing over their power. In every room, in every disagreement, in every negotiation, the man who controls his emotions controls the outcome. Not by shouting the loudest, but by staying steady while others collapse. True Stoic strength begins with realizing that emotions are not truths. They are impressions, brief sparks that the wise man notices, but does not obey. You don't have to erase your emotions, but you must command them. A man who lets anger lead him, who reacts to every slight, who chases every insult with explanation or rage, is a man controlled by others. He becomes a puppet with too many strings. Raise your voice in anger, and for a moment you may feel powerful, but in truth, you've exposed your weakness. You've shown that someone else governs your state of mind. That isn't mastery, that's surrender. Emotional reactions are predictable, and what can be predicted can be controlled. The moment someone knows how to provoke you, they don't need to defeat you. You'll defeat yourself. Think back. When was the last time you were pulled into an argument? Maybe someone insulted you, mocked your efforts, or questioned your worth, and without pause, you reacted. Maybe you shouted. Maybe you fired off a sharp reply. Did it bring peace? You abandoned your position and stepped into their frame. You stopped acting from principle and started reacting from impulse. That is how most people lose, not outwardly, but inwardly. The Stoic chooses differently. He waits, he watches, he sees insult as a test and anger as a trap. He knows that silence often speaks louder than shouting ever could. Picture yourself standing before someone trying to provoke you, while your heartbeat stays calm. You say little, you smile faintly, you refuse to follow their chaos. You let them burn themselves out while you remain unmoved. That is real control. Some will argue that showing emotion makes you human, that it builds connection. And yes, it can, but only when you decide how and when to reveal it. If you spill your emotions every time someone presses you, you become easy to read. And what is easy to read is easy to control. A man who can be read too easily is a man who can be played too easily. In a Stoic life, emotional restraint is not coldness. It is protection of your center. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That isn't poetry, it's a strategy. The world will push, pull, provoke, and test you. People will insult you, challenge you, misunderstand you. And each time you face a choice. Do I respond from impulse or from discipline? The man who pauses before he speaks has more power than the one who tries to rule with volume. Imagine someone insults you in front of a crowd. Everyone expects you to lash out, but instead you stay quiet. You meet their eyes calmly. Maybe you nod, maybe you walk away. That silence lingers far longer than any comeback could. They wanted to drag you into their arena, yet all they find is themselves, standing exposed and confused. This is how power shifts without force. You set the frame, and the frame decides everything. When you are always reacting, someone else sets the terms. They choose what matters. They choose what demands your attention. But when you hold your emotions steady, when you remain composed, you define the environment. You decide what carries weight and who truly controls the moment. Here's a hard truth. Most people are slaves to reflex. A sarcastic remark makes them defensive. A dismissive tone sparks their anger. A slow reply leaves them anxious. They believe they're thinking, but really they're just obeying every emotional pull without question. The Stoic man doesn't fall into this trap. He decides what deserves his energy. He knows not every fight is worth fighting, not every opinion worth hearing. He allows others to reveal themselves through their noise, while he gathers strength in stillness. You want respect? Then stop explaining yourself emotionally. Stop proving your worth through endless arguments. You're not here for approval. You're here to remain anchored in your values. Even in conflict, you don't need to fight fire with fire. Let your calm be your reply. Let your stillness do the speaking. Watch as others grow restless, waiting for you to flinch. Watch them collapse when you don't. Think like a general, not a soldier. Let others waste their arrows on emotion while you prepare for the long campaign. Keep your voice steady, your thoughts sharp, your responses rare. When you finally speak, let it be direct, deliberate, impossible to dismiss. Don't be baited into reaction. Let them chase your silence. Restraint holds immense power. It disarms attackers, unsettles critics, and strengthens your presence in any room. When you speak only with purpose, people pay attention. They may not say it, but they respect it. Because everyone deep down recognizes composure as depth. So next time someone tries to push you, pause. Ask yourself, is this reaction worthy of me or just a test of my discipline? You don't need to answer every storm. Sometimes the greatest strength is doing nothing at all. That is how power moves in the Stoic world. It is not loud, not theatrical. It is quiet, measured, immovable. Start within. Hold the line inside yourself, and the world will adjust. And once you've mastered that, you're ready for the next rule. 2. Let silence lead. In a world where everyone rushes to speak, silence becomes the rarest and strongest signal of authority. People confuse noise with influence. The Stoic knows better. Real power lies not in the volume of your voice, but in the weight of your presence. When you are silent, you are not empty. You are observing, listening, calculating. While others rush to prove themselves, you preserve energy like a blade kept sharp in its sheath. Look around. Most people fear silence. They scramble to fill it, desperate to escape discomfort, desperate to avoid uncertainty. But uncertainty is where the advantage begins. Stay silent, and others project. They start guessing what you're thinking. They interpret your stillness as wisdom judgment, or indifference. The more they guess, the more they reveal, not because you demanded it, but because they cannot sit with the silence you created. This is where the Stoic gains leverage. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't chase approval or defend ego. He watches. He lets the noise of others expose what they fear, what they want, what they're hiding. Then, when he chooses to speak, his words cut with precision, because they are few and deliberate. There's a tale of a Roman general who once sat through a council meeting without speaking. His enemies mistook it for weakness. But when he finally spoke, a single sentence ended the dispute, changed the campaign's course, and won the loyalty of the room. That's not myth, that's strategy. The Stoic doesn't talk to fill space, he speaks to leave impact, and every silence before his words makes them strike deeper. Silence also tests the soul. Can you sit across from someone, hold their gaze and say nothing? Can you let the pressure rise without rushing to relieve it? Most cannot. They ramble, over-explain, spill details they never meant to. They confess, they soften, they negotiate with themselves simply to escape the tension. And all you did was wait. All you did was hold firm. In negotiations, the man who speaks least often wins. Not because he hides, but because he anchors. He lets the other person rush, reveal, and over-offer. Then he speaks with clarity, slicing to the truth. That restraint is power. That discipline is persuasion. Even outside high-pressure moments, silence holds its strength. In business, a pause after a question shows you are not desperate to please. In an interview, a measured quiet signals confidence, not confusion. And in daily conversation, the man who speaks less is valued more. Why? Because people sense he isn't grasping. He isn't begging to be liked. He doesn't need to prove himself. This is why silence is sacred. It reflects sufficiency within. When you don't need to respond to everything, when you don't flinch at every remark, people feel it. They begin treating you differently. They lean in when you speak. They wait for your take. They study your reaction. And when they see none, they start questioning their own. The Stoics taught that control begins inside. Silence is one of its purest expressions. It isn't passive. It isn't weak. It is a tactic, a discipline, a position of strength. It declares, I know who I am. I know what matters. I don't need to perform for your approval. And here's the deeper truth. Talk too much and you become ordinary, predictable, easy to read. But speak with restraint and you become rare. And in this world, rarity commands respect. Let your words be earned, not spilled. Speak as though every word has weight. Make others come to you. Make them wonder what you're thinking. Let others work for your perspective, because what is scarce always carries more value. Silence creates contrast. It gives shape to your words and weight to your presence. Without it, your speech becomes noise. But with it, even a single phrase can shift the entire room. The goal isn't to be mute. It is to be measured, to understand that timing matters just as much as content. And when you finally speak, after holding your silence like a blade unsheathed at the perfect moment, the effect is unforgettable. So train yourself. Learn to be still in a room desperate for sound. Let others stumble over their need to be heard. Let them fill the air while you stand steady in your presence. And when you do speak, make every word strike as if it were chosen in battle. This isn't just conversation. It is strategy. It is composure. It is dominance through stillness. Master silence, and you no longer persuade, you command. And from that position of calm strength, you are ready for the next rule. 3. Be strategically misunderstood. There is a kind of strength that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. It waits in silence, lets others speak, lets others guess, while quietly guiding the field from the shadows. This is the art of psychological misdirection, a Stoic weapon built on perception and restraint. It isn't deception, it's discipline. The discipline to remain unreadable. The restraint to hold back just enough truth that others supply the rest on their own. And in that gap between what they think they know and what is real, you take control. Most people move through life like open books. What they feel shows on their face. What they believe spills out in their words. Their strengths, their doubts, their insecurities, all exposed. There's honesty in that, yes, but also vulnerability. And what is predictable can always be outmaneuvered. The Stoic understands that power doesn't always lie in what you reveal. More often, it lies in what you conceal. You don't need to impress. You don't need to prove. You only need to stay composed while others expose themselves. Let them misjudge you. Let them assume you're slower, weaker, or less prepared. Let them think you're disinterested or uninformed. That illusion becomes your shield. It lowers their guard. They relax. They speak openly. And in their comfort, they slip. They reveal too much. They show who they truly are, not because you forced them, but because they thought they were in control. Meanwhile, you are watching, listening, remembering, and when it matters, you move. There is Roman wisdom in this, the subtlety Marcus Aurelius hinted at when he said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, do not mirror aggression, do not respond in kind, do not show your entire hand, stay still. Let them believe the game is theirs, and when the time is right, reveal the sharpness they never expected. This isn't about becoming someone else, it's about knowing when to reveal and when to withhold. You might downplay your knowledge in a discussion, not from false humility, but to see who overstates theirs. You might allow someone to think they've outsmarted you, just to watch their overconfidence expose their flaws. You might publicly agree, while privately reserving your judgment until you're ready to act decisively. All of this is misdirection, not deceit, but deliberate restraint. The average person plays life in straight lines. What they say is what they mean. What they feel is what they show. But you are not average. You are deliberate. Where others rush, you pause. Where they react emotionally, you stay centered. You give just enough to keep them guessing, never enough to be fully known. Because when you are fully known, you are vulnerable. But when you are misunderstood by design, you are untouchable. Think of the quiet man in a room full of talkers. He nods, he listens, he speaks little. Others share freely around him because he gives nothing away. They mistake his stillness for passivity, not realizing every glance, every word, every gesture is being recorded and weighed. And when the moment comes, he speaks with clarity, precision, and the entire room shifts. Not because he was loud, but because he was exact. Even in confrontation, this tactic holds. When someone insults you, pushes you, tries to provoke you, you give them nothing. Instead of resistance, you offer a nod, not of agreement, but of indifference. That stillness unsettles them. They expect fire. Instead, they find composure. And in that moment, doubt creeps in. That doubt slows them. That hesitation opens space. And that space is all you need. The best misdirection isn't pretending to be what you're not. It's withholding just enough for others to mislead themselves, and by the time they realize it, it's too late. You've already positioned yourself exactly where you need to be. This is not manipulation, it is mastery of impression. In a world that rewards noise and speed, restraint becomes your advantage. The Stoic doesn't reveal his strength until the moment demands it. He accepts being overlooked, underestimated, even dismissed, because he knows his reveal will strike harder when it comes. You don't need to dominate every exchange. You don't need to chase recognition. You need only to remain patient, deliberate, and unreadable until the time is right. So let others reveal themselves. Let them assume. Let them believe they've figured you out. While they do, you watch, you prepare, you wait. Because the one who seems harmless is rarely guarded against. And when his true edge appears, it cuts 10 times deeper. Remember this lesson. Power isn't always in presence. Often it's in absence, in what isn't said, what isn't shown, what isn't explained. In that absence, you gain clarity. In that clarity, you gain advantage. And with that advantage, you step forward, ready for the next rule. 4. Turn absence into strength. What is seen too often loses its weight. What is always available feels ordinary. And in a world obsessed with constant presence, the rare man becomes unforgettable. Scarcity, when guided by Stoic discipline, is not aloofness. It is control. It says, my time, my presence, my attention, these are not free. They are earned. They are measured. Most people give themselves away carelessly. They respond to every message, attend every gathering, fill every silence, not because it's needed, but because they fear being forgotten. They mistake constant presence for influence, but what they really create is predictability. And in the Stoic view, whatever is predictable soon loses its power. You don't need to be everywhere to be remembered. In truth, the less they see you, the more your absence speaks. Absence, when chosen with purpose, becomes louder than any attempt at constant visibility. It forces people to wonder, to notice, to ask questions they'd never consider if you were always around. That mystery becomes your advantage. The less information you reveal, the more others project value onto you. Not because you claimed it, but because you left space for them to fill in the gaps. This principle works because human nature, left untrained by reason, always chases what seems limited. When you become selective with your energy, when you stop explaining every choice or responding to every call, you send a signal that your life is guided by priorities, not by demands. Take the example of the man who speaks rarely in meetings. While others rush to contribute and be noticed, he waits, he listens. And when he finally does speak, the room falls silent. Not because he demanded attention, but because he earned it through patience and timing. His presence feels focused, not scattered. His words feel valuable, not repetitive. That is the effect of scarcity. It isn't about absence for its own sake. It's about aligning your presence with your purpose. Epictetus reminds us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Why? Because it means you've stopped chasing the eyes of everyone. You've stepped back from the hunger for constant approval. And in that withdrawal, done with clarity, your presence becomes sacred. Scarcity also trains others in how to treat you. If your time is always free, people treat it as worthless. They cancel, delay, and overstep because you've taught them there is no cost. But when you set limits, when you pause before responding, when you reserve your energy only for what matters, people adjust. They come prepared. They listen more carefully. They weigh their words because they know yours are not given cheaply. This even applies to daily conversation. A man who speaks with restraint compels others to lean in. His words stick because they are not wasted. He becomes the one whose silence carries weight and whose speech cannot be ignored. That is scarcity in action. A presence that communicates more through what is withheld than what is spoken. Consider this. Elite circles run on the same principle. Not everyone gets access. Not everything is explained. The rules are unwritten. The doors are guarded. And the silence around them communicates more value than any advertisement ever could. It isn't arrogance. It's the preservation of what is rare. Apply this to your own life. Pull back from the noise. You don't need to post every detail. You don't need to answer every call. You don't need to justify why you disappeared. Disappear and let your silence speak. Reappear only when it matters, and let your presence feel like an event, not a routine. This isn't a game. It's discipline. It's the training of others to see you as someone whose time is sacred, whose focus is steady, and whose attention is not for sale. When people see you move on your own terms, without begging for inclusion, they begin to respect the force that drives you. They stop assuming access and start earning it. And most importantly, you protect your own energy. You stop chasing every chance to be noticed and start walking with intention toward what aligns with your highest standards. You don't dilute your presence, you refine it. Let others scatter themselves everywhere. Let them burn out chasing attention. You remain measured. And when you move, move with purpose. Because in a world of noise and exposure, the man who is rare becomes revered. Let this remind you, you don't need to be seen by everyone. You only need to be remembered by the right ones. And now that you've mastered scarcity, it's time to uncover the next principle of unshakable power. 5. Lead quietly through reflection. There is a quiet kind of strength that doesn't shout or confront. It doesn't demand authority or impose control. It moves like water, subtle, patient, precise. This is the power of mirroring. A Stoic knows that influence isn't always achieved by force. Often, the most effective way to lead is by reflecting what stands before you, gently guiding it, while letting the other person believe it was their own idea. People trust what feels familiar. When they sense you speak like them, pause like them, even move as they do, something inside softens. They feel understood. And once someone feels truly seen, you unlock a threshold no argument or logic could ever force open. The Stoic doesn't win by debate. He wins by making others feel safe in his presence. Mirroring, not mimicry, but subtle alignment, creates that safety. It begins with observation. You notice how someone sits, how they phrase their words, how quickly or slowly they speak, where their energy rests, high or low. Then you adjust, not like a puppet, not as a trick, but with presence. Just enough for them to think, this person understands me. That moment, small as it may seem, opens doors brute force would slam shut. Everyone longs to be understood, even if few admit it. Enter a conversation too sharply, too polished, too fast, and walls rise instantly. But meet them where they are, in rhythm, tone, or body language, and those walls dissolve. They relax, and in that space you find your opening. From there, something invisible begins. They start following your lead, not because you forced them, but because you created alignment. Influence is not controlled, it is a movement. And when someone feels emotionally safe, they move with you. That is the power of mirroring. It builds rapport without demand, trust without pressure. You haven't taken control, they've given it to you. This is especially powerful in subtle games of power. The Stoic knows dominance doesn't come from volume or taking up space. It comes from quietly guiding the tone of a room. You shift rhythm, you slow your words, you ask a thoughtful question. If they follow your pace, your tone, your posture, you know you're leading. If not, you adjust, you wait, you remain present. This isn't performance, it is strategy wrapped in calm. Even in conflict, mirroring becomes a shield. When someone enters heated, reactive, ready to argue, you meet them briefly at their level, not to fight, but to acknowledge. Then you lower your tone, slow your pace, and steady yourself. Gradually, almost unnoticed, they follow. Not because they were defeated, but because you gave them something steadier to align with. This is how you de-escalate without ever raising a weapon. You lead them out of their fire by stepping in just long enough to show the way. The same principle holds in persuasion. You can have the most flawless logic, but if you're out of sync with the person before you, your words will bounce off their armor, reflect their pace, their tone, their concerns, even briefly, and the armor drops. That's when your words can finally reach them. Stoic influence isn't built on emotional tricks. It's built on presence. A grounded man speaks less to be heard and more to be felt. Once mirroring builds trust, you begin to steer. You change pace, shift subjects, guide tone. You become like a conductor, shaping the flow of the conversation. They think it's just a good exchange. In reality, you've been directing it since the first moment. This isn't manipulation, it's moral strategy. You're not leading for selfish gain. You lead because calm, clarity, and connection work better than argument, noise, or pride. And here's the deeper truth. People remember how you made them feel more than what you said. Mirroring isn't about being liked, it's about alignment. When someone feels aligned with you, they trust you, even if they don't know why. That's when influence becomes effortless. You don't argue, you don't demand. You simply stand in quiet authority, and they walk beside you. The Stoic doesn't need the spotlight. He shapes the moment without claiming it. Guidance doesn't always come with titles or power. Sometimes it begins with silence, with presence, with the ability to mirror calmly, and then to lead gently. By doing so, he becomes the still point in chaos, the figure others lean toward without knowing why. So, the next time you step into conversation, don't rush to speak. Watch, listen, reflect, guide. Remember this: when you master the rhythm of others, you begin to shape the flow of everything. And from here, the next level of influence becomes possible. You're not chasing control. You're carrying it in the palm of your hand. 6. Walk away with clarity. Power doesn't always live in action. Sometimes it lives in absence. The Stoic man understands strength isn't only knowing when to speak or strike. It is also knowing when to leave. The most dangerous presence in any room is the one that doesn't need to stay. He is unattached, undisturbed, unmoved by the outcome. He isn't there to prove himself. He stands on principle, and when that principle is broken, he doesn't argue. He leaves. Most people cling to relationships positions, conversations, even conflicts, long after the value is gone. Not because they believe in it, but because they fear losing it. Fear traps them in cycles of compromise, mistaking suffering for loyalty. They endure what should be abandoned. They tolerate what they would never advise another to accept. That isn't resilience. That's quiet desperation disguised as patience. But the man with a plan, the man who has trained his mind and clarified his values, knows the strength of walking away. He doesn't create a scene. He doesn't burn bridges. He simply removes himself with such clarity that the silence left behind speaks louder than any argument ever could. His absence creates pressure. His withdrawal sparks reflection. It leaves others questioning their position, not his. This isn't coldness, it's clarity. You've already set your terms. You know what fits your path and what doesn't. So when something crosses that line, you don't plead and you don't justify. You depart. That is the highest form of discipline, to walk away not from emotion, but from reason. Whether it's a conversation that has gone nowhere, a deal wasting your time, or a connection draining your peace, you don't force it. You assess, you decide, you exit, not from bitterness, but from self-respect. You've already done the hard work of defining what you will and will not accept, and because of that, you never feel trapped. This clarity makes you unpredictable, not reckless, but untied. People sense when you don't need them, and in that moment, everything shifts. In business, your terms gain weight. In relationships, your presence earns respect. In every setting, you move with quiet authority. Why? Because you are no longer ruled by the fear of exclusion. You've built your life so no external attachment governs your inner state. Even in arguments, the wise man knows the most powerful response is often silence followed by departure. Let them raise their voice. Let them twist the story. You walk away and let the emptiness speak for you. Later, when they replay the moment and wonder why you didn't stay and fight, that silence becomes your echo. That absence becomes your mark. Walking away protects your future. It guards your time, your clarity, your energy. It shields you from resentment because you left before you were drained. You turned the page when the story stopped serving your growth. And people notice, even if they never say it. They recognize the man who isn't desperate, who doesn't cling, who isn't afraid to leave. And when they know you can walk away, they begin to treat your presence with reverence. That is the quiet power of the exit. From that stillness, you move forward, prepared for what comes next. True power doesn't shout. It moves quietly, sees clearly, and chooses wisely. These 6 rules are not tricks of domination. They are disciplines of presence, sharpened by restraint, guided by reason. When you master your emotions, speak less, allow others to misjudge you, hold your distance, lead with subtlety, and know when to leave. You stop reacting to the world. You begin shaping it. Most people live on the surface, drowning in noise, addicted to being seen. But not you. You now carry the calm of a man who knows himself. So, if this message struck something inside you, pause. Take a breath. Let it settle. Subscribe if you're ready to keep sharpening this edge. Drop a comment saying, "Stay 5 steps," to anchor it in your mind. The world doesn't need another voice trying to prove itself. It needs a presence that cannot be ignored. Be that presence, and I'll see you in the next lesson.